It's week 40 of A Year of Wisdom. Let's get to reading. Day 275. Job 2. Another day came when the sons of God came to serve Adonai, and among them came the adversary to serve Adonai. Where are you coming from? The adversary answered Adonai, from roaming through the earth, wandering here and there. Adonai asked the adversary, Did you notice my servant Job? That there's no one like him on earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and shuns evil? And that he still holds on to his integrity, even though you provoked me against him to destroy him for no reason. The adversary answered Adonai, Skin for skin. A person will give up everything he has to save his life. But if you reach out your hand and touch his flesh and bone, without a doubt, he'll curse you to your face. Adonai said to the adversary, Here, he is in your hands, except that you are to spare his life. Then the adversary went out from the presence of Adonai and struck Job down with horrible infected sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. He took a piece of broken pot to scratch himself and sat down in the pile of ashes. His wife asked him, Why do you still hold on to your integrity? Curse God and die. But he answered her, You're talking like a low-class woman. Are we to receive the good at God's hands, but reject the bad? In all this, Job did not say one sinful word. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all the calamities that had overwhelmed him, they all came. Each came from his own home: Eliphaz the Teman, Bildad from Shuach, and Zophar from Naamah. They had agreed to meet together in order to come and offer him sympathy and comfort. When they saw him from a distance, they couldn't even recognize him. They wept aloud, tore their coats, and threw dust over their heads toward heaven. Then they sat down with him on the ground. For 7 days and 7 nights, no one spoke a word to him, because they saw how much he was suffering. At length, Job broke the silence and cursed the day of his birth. Proverbs 2, or Mishlei 2. My son, if you will receive my words and store my commands inside you, paying attention to wisdom, inclining your mind toward understanding, yes, if you will call for insight and raise your voice for discernment, if you seek it as you would silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of Adonai and find knowledge of God. For Adonai gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up common sense for the upright, is a shield to those whose conduct is blameless, in order to guard the courses of justice and preserve the way of those faithful to him. Then you will understand righteousness, justice, fairness, and every good path. For wisdom will enter your heart, knowledge will be enjoyable for you. Discretion will watch over you, and discernment will guard you. They will save you from the way of evil, and from those who speak deceitfully, who leave the paths of honesty to walk the ways of darkness, who delight in doing evil and take joy in being stubbornly deceitful, from those whose tracks are twisted and whose paths are perverse. They will save you from a woman who is a stranger, from a loose woman with smooth talk, who abandons the ruler she had in her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. Her house is sinking toward death. Her paths lead to the dead. None who go to her return. They never regain the path to life. Thus you will walk on the way of good people and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will live in the land. The pure-hearted will remain there, but the wicked will be cut off from the land. The unfaithful rooted out of it. Ecclesiastes, or Kohelet 2. I said to myself, Come now, I will test myself with pleasure and enjoying good things. But this too was pointless. Of laughter I said, This is stupid, and of pleasure, what's the use of it? I searched my mind for how to gratify my body with wine, and, with my mind still guiding me with wisdom, how to pursue foolishness. My object was to find out what was the best thing for people to do during the short time they have under heaven to live. I worked on a grand scale. I built myself palaces, planted myself vineyards, and made myself gardens and parks. In them I planted all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the trees springing up in the forest. I bought male and female servants, and I had my homeborn slaves as well. I also had growing herds of cattle and flocks of sheep, more than anyone before me in Jerusalem. I amassed silver and gold, the wealth of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers, things that provide sensual delight, and a good many concubines. So I grew great, surpassing all who preceded me in Jerusalem. My wisdom, too, stayed with me. I denied my eyes nothing they wanted. I withheld no pleasure from myself, for I took pleasure in all my work, and this was my reward for all my work. Then I looked at all that my hands had accomplished, and at the work I had toiled at, and I saw that it was all meaningless and feeding on wind, and that there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So I decided to look more carefully at wisdom, stupidity, and foolishness. For what can the man who succeeds the king do except what has already been done? I saw that wisdom is more useful than foolishness, just as light is more useful than darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet the same fate awaits them all. So I said to myself, if the same thing happens to the fool as to me, then what did I gain by being wise? And I thought to myself, this too is pointless. For the wise man, like the fool, will not be long remembered, inasmuch as in the times to come, everything will long ago have been forgotten. The wise man, no less than the fool, must die. So I came to hate life, because the activities done under the sun were loathsome to me, since everything is meaningless and feeding on wind. I hated all of the things for which I had worked under the sun, because I saw that I would have to leave them to the man who will come after me. Who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool? Yet he will have control over all the things I worked for, and which demonstrated how wise I am under the sun. This too is pointless. Thus I came to despair over all the things I had worked for under the sun. Here is a man whose work is done with wisdom, knowledge, and skill. Yet he has to leave it to someone who has put no work into it. This is not only pointless, but a great evil. For what does a person get from all his efforts and ambitions permeating the work he does under the sun? His whole life is one of pain, and his work is full of stress. Even at night, his mind gets no rest. This too is pointless. So there's nothing better for a man to do than eat, drink, and let himself enjoy the good that results from his work. I also realize that this is from God's hand. For who will eat and who will enjoy except me? For to the man who is good from God's viewpoint, he gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of collecting and accumulating things to leave to him who is good from God's viewpoint. This too is pointless and feeding on wind. And as always, thank you so much for being here today. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button right there and click the bell so you can get notifications. And if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button for me. And I will see you tomorrow. Maranatha.
My heart is worry worn. I know without a doubt you'll carry me out of the storm. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm lost without a clue. I need a big pink neon sign to show me what to do. I thank you, Lord. It glorifies you when you're the only answer. I praise you, Lord, for holding what's too much for me. And I'm amazed by you, Lord, Because nothing's too big and nothing's too small to lay at your feet.